Hello everyone, welcome back to Ronin's Den. My name's Eric, and we're continuing our companion series for our 2nd edition game of Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, In the Night Below. And in this video, I'm going to tell you everything that you need to know about proficiencies in 2nd edition. Starting with what is a proficiency and how does it work? Okay, so proficiencies are very similar to 5th edition, but also very different at the same time. They're broken up into two main categories, weapon proficiencies and non-weapon proficiencies. Based on what your character class is, you're going to be part of one of 4 main groups of characters. So there are the warrior group, the wizard group, the priest group, and the rogue grouping. Fighters, rangers, and paladins are warriors. Mages and specialty wizards are wizards. Clerics and druids are priests. Thieves and bards are rogues. Once we know that thing, where our character falls in a group, we know how many weapon proficiencies and non-weapon proficiencies we start with. Let's go through this like we're making a fighter character, just a human fighter. Well, at level 1, it says I get 4 initial weapon proficiencies. Something to remember about these weapon proficiencies, okay? If you go back to the class videos, certain classes may only use certain weapons, and some classes, like the fighter, can use any weapon. Weapon proficiencies in 2nd edition are also specific in nature. 5th edition, you could take the martial category, and you get a whole bunch of weapons underneath that proficiency. Not so in 2nd edition. If you want to be proficient in a longsword, a mace, a spear, and a heavy crossbow, you need to take 4 weapon proficiencies in each of those skills. So you're going to take longsword, spear, heavy crossbow, and mace. That's going to be all 4 of your weapon proficiencies. Now, depending on your group, every so many levels, you get a new weapon proficiency. Warriors, every 3 levels, they obtain a new one. So what that looks like is level 1, you have 4. When you reach level 4, you gain 1 new weapon proficiency. Fighters, and only fighters of the single class nature, also have something that they can do with their weapon proficiency slots, and is they may become specialists. Specializing in a weapon means that you spend 2 weapon proficiency slots on it. 1 to become proficient, and the 2nd to become a specialist. Now with melee weapons, that gives you an automatic +1 to hit, +2 to damage, and as you can see on our specialist attacks per round chart here, additional attacks per melee. Remember, in 2nd edition with its action economy is you get 1 action per round. Specialist fighters gain more attacks per round, as do warriors in general. Paladins and rangers will get more attacks per round, but the specialist fighter gains those attacks per round much sooner than your paladin or your ranger would. Now, if they specialize in something like a longbow or a short bow, that's not going to give you that +1 to hit, +2 to damage. Instead, you're going to get an additional range category, which is point blank, which means you can start using ranged weapons within 6 feet of a target. That's melee range if you're using a battle map with 5x5 squares, each square being 5 feet. And you get +2 to hit with the weapon. There is no damage bonus. There is that carve out if you're using a bow that's specialty designed to incorporate a fighter's strength, but as far as specialist ability adjustments, it's just the +2 to hit. And also, depending on what weapon you have, it gives you additional attacks per round as well. Consult the chart here. Now, if you're attacking with a weapon that you're not proficient with, that's when that penalty number on the chart above comes into play. That penalty has nothing to do with non-weapon proficiencies. Only when attacking with a weapon that you're not proficient with. So, a warrior who picks up a weapon that they do not have proficiency with attacks with a -2. a wizard a -5, a priest -3, and a rogue -3. That number can be offset with sufficiently high attributes. So if you have a bonus to hit because of a high strength, and it can be further offset with magical weapons. So if you have a longsword +2, that'll offset that penalty entirely for a warrior. And they could actually end up still with a bonus to hit if they have a high enough strength. Moving on to non-weapon proficiencies. Believe it or not, this is considered an optional system in 2nd edition. It's the system I always use at my tables, so I always viewed it as mandatory. But this is the optional way to handle things. Every class gets a number of non-weapon proficiencies to start with at level 1. Warriors get 3, wizards get 4, priests get 4, rogues get 3, and then every 3 levels, warriors, wizards, and priests gain a new non-weapon proficiency slot. Every 4 levels, a rogue gets a new non-weapon proficiency slot. Once you have that known, you then want to look at your non-weapon proficiency crossover groupings. This is where your character's specific class falls into what groups that you can take non-weapon proficiencies from. Fighters are part of the warrior and general group. Paladins are part of the warrior, priest, and general. Rangers are warrior, wizard, and general, which I always thought was a little weird considering rangers get their spells from deities in 2nd edition. But anyway, clerics are priests and general. Druids, priest, warrior, general. Mages and illusionists are wizards and general. Thieves, rogue, general, and the bard has the most that it can draw from in the rogue, warrior, wizard, and general categories. Once you know that, you can move into the non-weapon proficiency chart. It's broken up into 5 distinct areas: general, rogue, warrior, wizard, and priest. And each one of these skills is specific in nature, but also broad enough that depending on what you're looking to use these skills for, they could come into play under a wide range of criteria, like rope use. Anything that you want to do with rope, you can use a rope use proficiency check for. The first thing you'll see is the number of slots required in order to learn that skill. So with rope use, that is 1 slot. The next thing you'll see is relevant ability and check modifier. This goes into how you do a check for proficiency, success, or failure in 2nd edition. And it's super easy. So rope use, the relevant ability is dexterity. Okay. And the modifier is 0. So in order to do a rope use check, you roll a d20 and you just want the roll to equal your dexterity score or be lower than it. So if you have a 15 dexterity, you want to roll a 15 or less on a d20 when a rope use check is called for. That's how it works. If you look at the priest group ancient history, that requires 1 slot. Its relevant ability is intelligence, and its check modifier is -1. So let's say your priest wants to roll an ancient history check, and they have a 17 intelligence. Well, you subtract 1 from their intelligence. That's a 16 now. You need to roll a 16 or less on a d20 to roll a successful ancient history check. That's it. Super easy. There's no asking your DM if you succeed or not. There's no rolling a number and being like, I won, right? And then find out that no, you didn't. You totally failed that roll. You know what you need in order to pass before you even roll the die. Now, the DM might say, hey, go ahead and roll that proficiency check with a penalty. Penalty in 2nd edition would be like a +2, right? A +1. Or I'm sorry, it would be that -2, -3, because the lower the number, the harder it is for you to roll that check successful. A bonus would be like roll that check with +2, +3. So you could take a 15 if you get a +3 to the bonus to the check, 18 or less on a d20 and you're successful. All right. Now, there's no specializing with non-weapon proficiencies, so to speak. But when you gain additional non-weapon proficiency slots, you can devote those slots to existing non-weapon proficiencies that you have. And when you do that, it increases your likelihood of being successful by 1. So let's just use that ancient history check for a priest again. Let's say they have it at level 1. They do a check. Their normal check is 17 minus 1 would be 16. They need a 16 or less to be successful. Well, they level up to 4 and they get a new non-weapon proficiency slot. They can spend it on ancient history again. And that'll take that -1 check modifier and turn it to a 0. Each slot that you devote beyond the first gives you a +1 modifier to that check. So you could vote a second and it would go to 0, a third slot +1, a fourth slot +2. So over your character's career, if you want to specialize in certain non-weapon proficiencies or just give yourselves a better chance to be successful, things like weapon smithing and armor are skills that people tend to devote more than one non-weapon proficiency slot to. You can do that and just become better and better at those skills. All right. There's one last thing that they have in the book. This is what they run as like what the standard is, or what they at least allude to what the standard for skills would be. I've never used this system. It's called secondary skills. Secondary skills is another way to handle your skills that don't do with weapons. They have nothing to do with weapons. How this works is you roll a D100 and you consult this chart. And you fall into one of these professions. Or if you roll a 72 to 85, you don't have any skills. If you roll an 86 to 100, you roll twice, but you disregard any additional 86 to 100 rolls. So you get 2 secondary proficiency skills. Secondary skills are best thought of as the job you had before you became an adventurer, or what you were an apprentice for before you went out adventuring. This requires a lot more negotiation with the DM when skills are called for, because you need to work in how being a tailor is a benefit to your check to try and sneak through this camp and lift something off of a table unnoticed, or to pass off something as a forged document. Not my favorite system to use. Never used it, to be honest with you. I use this to roll up NPCs that I don't need stats for. Oh, you're talking to a guy in a bar. He's a woodworker. He can answer your questions about woodworking. But that's the other way that they handle these things. So what do you think? Which is your preferred method? Do you like the non-weapon proficiencies? Do you like secondary skills? Have you played in a game where you used secondary skills instead of non-weapon proficiencies? Let me know in the comments section. I want to share one homebrew rule before I wrap up this video, and that has to do with non-weapon proficiency slots. What I like to do for my players, if you remember back to our video of the 6 attributes, with intelligence, there are language slots. So you can know 4 languages, for instance. What I like to do for my players is allow them to take those language slots as additional languages, or to change them over and use them for additional non-weapon proficiencies. Just a way to give players some additional skills before they start the game off. Little homebrew thing I thought I'd share with you at the end. But as always, If you could give me a like and a subscribe on this video if you found it helpful in any way, it definitely helps get these retro second edition videos out to people who might be looking for this content or might not even know they're looking for it, but we're happy to get some second edition material come across their YouTube feed for a change. We are continuing our Game of the Night Below, which releases every other Monday. This coming Monday is going to be a session. It's a Wednesday today, the 24th, depending on when you see this video. We're also continuing our Capiterra game every other Saturday for Fabula Ultima, along with those class release breakdowns for that on the off Saturdays. And we started a series for the Legends of Kralis, a awesome D100 roll under system that's like science fantasy aetherpunk. It's almost like if you could take Starfinder and Pathfinder and smush them together and have the system like work without any seams whatsoever. And you have your technological spaceships with four-armed series running around with laser rifles, but you also have your Hava 2 engineers designing steamwork creations using medieval technology and slinging spells. Like, it just works. And we also have the creator of that system, Levi Davis, joining us for our videos where we're talking about it. So they're able to answer any questions we have in real time with the system creator. I absolutely love that. So we'll catch you next time on our next video, and we will see you on our Night Below nights. Catch you later.